What's up, guys? This is Hitchy Good, your favorite all-American freedom-loving gamer, and I've spent the last few days grinding out the Modern Warfare 2 beta. There's a lot of things that I love, and there's also a lot of things I hate, but for right now, we're gonna complain. You may have seen my last video talking about all the things that Modern Warfare 2 has done right. Well, today we're going to talk about what Modern Warfare 2 has done wrong, and there's quite a list of sins here. But before we get going, please don't forget to click that like button and leave your opinions in the comments below. As of the editing of this video, we're just 34 subs away from unlocking the community tools on YouTube so we can grow even faster. So, if you take the time to subscribe, please let me know in the comments below so I can personally thank you. But for now, on with the video. So first of all, just like every single other content creator out there, I'm gonna complain about the footsteps being too dang loud. However, we do have a little bit more to talk about this than just a surface level recommendation that the footsteps need to be quieter. This isn't just one issue. This is an overarching issue. This is a big issue. It's the whole flavor of the game. It's Infinity Ward attempting to restructure the playstyle of Call of Duty. In essence, Infinity Ward is making the game easier for bad players, or at least players who aren't going to put in the time to get good, to put in the effort to get good, players that want to sit in corners and camp and not push the objective. Not only is this completely apparent through the implementation of skill-based matchmaking, which we all hate, I'm sure, but also in the gameplay itself. We've seen a ton of complaints about dead silence not being a perk, and there's a reason for that as well we're going to discuss later. On top of that, there's complaints that we aren't ever going to get a classic mini-map again, where enemies show up whenever they're firing their weapons, which makes sense to me. That's kind of, you know, we can't actually hear where the players are, so that's kind of the trade-off there. We get to see when they show up on the mini-map. Infinity Ward has already pretty much said that they're not going to implement it. They gave their reasons, and this all ties into why footsteps really are so loud. Developers are able to keep the skill ceiling low so a majority of players all share as close to the same experience as possible, with no one individual being able to break out and dominate the player base like we see in Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 4. These are games I've been playing lately that I really enjoy. When all players share a very similar experience, it's easier to manipulate that player base into, I don't know, buying battle passes, buying skins, buying weapon blueprints. The player base is easier to understand from a corporate level as a whole, and therefore it's easier to sell to that player base. So let's explain this a little bit more. Footsteps are allowed as to punish players who are able to achieve a higher skill gap, a skill ceiling in Modern Warfare 2019. And master the movement mechanics. Those players are going to be penalized. So, how can we penalize them? Well, let's penalize the movement that they utilize. Let's penalize movement by making it super loud. Additionally, let's reward players to sit as still as possible by not showing their location on the mini-map when they sit back and fire their guns. Infinity Ward even stated that they do not want to penalize players for firing their weapons, which is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. In older titles, I didn't ever think about that. I shot who I could kill, and never once did I think, oh, I better not fire my gun so I don't show up. It's just something I kind of expected, you know, that's the trade-off. That's what the whole series is geared towards, is firing your weapon. But they say no classic mini-map. They also say that suppressors are going to be pretty much useless and offer no benefits to running a stealth build, and that also that no one is going to utilize the skill of using the mini-map in the game to gain an advantage on other players. That's what we did back in previous titles, though. If somebody wasn't willing to learn to utilize the mini-map, guess what? They paid the price for it. And if someone did, they would reap the rewards with knowing the general location of their enemies on the map. So in essence, these decisions by Infinity Ward and Activision all lead towards the most uniform experience across the board for all players. A boring one. They reward sitting still and not pushing objectives and keeping campers off the minimap, all while pushing this heavy, thick, skill-based matchmaking to make absolutely sure that noobs don't get their feelings hurt and that they're in their shit wrecked, so they'll be more likely to buy the next operator skin. It's all about the money. So, I'm going to play this game anyways, because in some older titles that use some of these mechanics that they're currently using now, there was a counterplay to them. Of course, I don't think any of these older titles used all of these mechanics at the same time. But there is a counterplay to these noobs and campers with shotties. You can check your corners, you can B-hop, you utilize Peeker's advantage when you can, you utilize UAVs, but it still doesn't change the fact that the game rewards static and stagnant gameplay. And I hope that they address this, at least to some degree. I understand if you're wanting to pull the game back, you know, in some sort of direction, but you don't crank the dial this hard. Next, I do want to talk about the operators. The Vault Package skins look like hot Fortnite garbage. Nobody's going to wear this in combat. They're just not. And it's completely fanciful to think otherwise. Pretty good. I will say this, like, I do think that these particular skins with this mask and everything, so that mask, I mean, that looks retarded. This looks really dumb. And Average Aardvark had a very good point in the last video that he put up, that Ghost is supposed to be this cold, unfeeling, like, entity in Modern Warfare. But here he's all angry and everything's like really pronounced and everything, and it takes away, it makes the guy kind of human, I guess, when he's not really supposed to be. But to me, that stuff with the red, like, there's no way you're going in battle with that. Not only is it making you stand out like a sore thumb, but it's also like messing with your peripheral vision and everything. And I like the feel of this game in that it has some realistic, you know, traits to it. For real, I want some decent, badass skins like we had during the first few months of Modern Warfare 2019. Even bringing in creators like Alex Zedra, bringing in Lurch, that was actually pretty cool, considering those characters are active members in the gun community in a game that is centered around guns. But when Jigsaw, Snoop Dogg, and some freak with a Godzilla head sticking out the top of his skull show up, the immersion's over. The game's broken, and it's clear that the devs have totally run out of ideas. So far, I'm really hoping that these are the only skins we see like this, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I mean, this doesn't look like Price, it doesn't look like Ghost. I mean, it's just weird. Most of these games can't even go 6 months, let alone the 2 years that we have this title, without implementing goofy, crazy skins and gun blueprints that actually have dragon wings protruding from them. It's just plain goofy, and I wish they'd do better. So we better, you know, enjoy what we got right now, because this is probably going to be the most original, realistic skins that we're going to have probably in the first 2 months of this. But I wish they would do better. I wish they would listen to the community, but unfortunately, the quote-unquote community, as it were, we are probably the minority of players. Considering how many millions of people play Call of Duty, we're probably the minority of players, and therefore we don't drive the sales that Activision is looking for. And another thing with this game's rendition of Ground War from 2019, which is now called Invasion, it seems like a really pretty decent concept so far. There's some vehicles in there that I like, but I don't know why in the world they would not put squad-based spawning where you could just spawn on your squad the whole time, because what this happens is it just turns into a running simulator. It's not near as fun as it could be. It's hard to get back into the action, and you pretty much just got to run for half, if not further, into the map just to get into some action again. So far, that's made that game mode a little bit more boring than it should be. There's a lot of potential there, but this is something you definitely need to address. On top of all this, Warzone is really going to need a bunch of changes if it's going to survive. I mean, I'm not going to go real in-depth on this. I'm just going to kind of list out things that I saw. I'm not going to dive in, and mostly because I'm not diving in, I haven't played it firsthand, and therefore I don't feel that I've got the credibility and the authority to speak on it. But there are truths, whether you've played it or not. There's some glaringly obvious truths out there that need to be addressed, and I understand they wanted to make this a little bit more like a traditional BR, which is totally okay in my book, and in some ways a good thing. But instead of tweaking it, they pretty much violated the things that made Warzone, what made it successful. They cranked the dial completely the other way, and now I think it's probably just a mess. Like I said, I haven't played it, so I can't say that definitely, but it looks like it. First of all, there's no loadouts, which is kind of weird because I figured they would want loadouts to be out there, and I understand there is a counter argument to this that, you know, gets rid of the meta or whatever, but if I land somewhere, it was always really frustrating, even in the original Warzone, if all I could find was a pistol and someone had their loadout, or if they just had a better gun, it's kind of a chance thing, and I don't like leaving things up to chance. I want to reward good decisions and punish bad decisions. By taking loadouts out, it just totally leaves you know, your success up to the looting pool in the game. So no loadouts, I think, is a bad idea. There's way too many bots that just probably shouldn't be in the game, except for maybe the strongholds. That might make sense. There's the armor system that's just plain off. It's just weird. Too few players on too large of a map. There's a UI that kind of seems invisible when you're not in a darker room and you can't really see it. The gulag doesn't make any sense, and a looting system that is very clunky. I think they can improve the looting without completely scrapping it, but it needs some work, and the buy stations are just way too complicated. In the original Warzone, everything you needed was on one page, you clicked it, you were done, but this thing has 3 different menus to navigate, so there's going to be a lot of rage surrounding getting clapped while your head is down in a loot menu or a buy station. But that's pretty much all I've got on Warzone 2.0. When I play it, I'm going to go a lot more in depth. You know, but those are just some things that I noticed during the CoD Next premiere that absolutely need addressing. So, what do you think? Is Modern Warfare 2 worth buying? Are Infinity Ward or Activision going to fix any of this stuff before launch? Please leave your opinions in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support your favorite all-American freedom-loving gamer. Happy gaming, God bless, Richie Good out.